Hello everyone, and welcome back to your daily dose of English, where we make learning English easy, practical, and super fun. I'm Tom, and I'm so excited for today's episode.
And I'm Sarah. Hello, Tom, and hello to all our amazing listeners out there. How are you feeling today?
I'm feeling great, Sarah. Actually, I'm feeling a little excited because today's topic is one that can literally save our listeners money. We're talking about negotiating prices.
Oh, I love this topic. You know, many English learners feel nervous when they need to negotiate or bargain, especially at places like flea markets, garage sales, or when buying used items. But the truth is, it's not as scary as it seems.
It's really not. And before we dive in, we have a quick reminder for everyone listening. If you're enjoying this podcast and finding it helpful, please take a moment to subscribe to your daily dose of English. Hit that subscribe button.
Yes, and don't forget to like this episode and share it with your friends who are also learning English. It really helps us create more content for you. And hey, leave us a comment below. We want to know, have you ever tried to negotiate a price in English? How did it go?
Great question, Sarah. I bet we'll get some interesting stories. Okay, so let's jump right into today's topic. Sarah, have you ever been to a flea market or a garage sale?
Oh, absolutely. I love them. There's something so exciting about finding hidden treasures and getting a good deal. But I have to admit, the first time I tried to negotiate in English, I was so nervous. My hands were actually shaking a little bit.
I totally understand that feeling. When you're negotiating, you're not just using English, you're also trying to be confident, persuasive, and friendly, all at the same time. That can feel like a lot.
It really can. But here's the thing our listeners need to know. In many cultures, especially in places like flea markets, garage sales, and when buying used items, negotiating is completely normal. It's actually expected. The seller puts a price, but they know you might want to negotiate.
Exactly. In fact, sellers often set their prices a little higher because they expect people to negotiate. So when you ask for a lower price, you're not being rude. You're just participating in the normal process of buying and selling.
That's such an important point, Tom. Many English learners worry, will I offend the seller? Will they think I'm cheap? But the answer is no. As long as you're polite and friendly, negotiating is perfectly acceptable.
Right. The key word there is polite. You can negotiate and be friendly at the same time. So let's start with the basics. Sarah, what's the first thing someone should say when they see something they like?
Well, first, you want to show interest. You can start with something simple like, how much is this? Or, what's the price for this? These are the most common and natural ways to ask about price.
Perfect. And what's great about these phrases is that they work anywhere. Whether you're at a flea market, a garage sale, or even looking at a used car, you can always ask, how much is this?
Exactly. Now, after the seller tells you the price, this is where the negotiation starts. Let's say you're at a flea market and you see a beautiful vintage lamp. You ask, how much is this? And the seller says, $30. But you think that's a bit high.
Right. So what do you say next? Here's where many learners get stuck. They know they want to pay less, but they don't know the right words to use. Sarah, what's a good phrase to start the negotiation?
One of my favourites is, would you take $20? This is polite, clear, and direct. You're making an offer. You're saying, I want to buy this. but I want to pay $20 instead of $30.
That's a great phrase. Would you take? And then you say your price. Another option is, could you do $20? Both of these phrases are friendly and show you're serious about buying.
Yes, and notice the structure. We're using would you or could you, which makes the question polite. We're not demanding. We're asking nicely. This is important in English culture. Being polite opens doors.
Absolutely. Now, sometimes the seller might say yes right away. If they say, sure, $20 is fine, then congratulations, you got a deal. But often the seller might say something like, I can't go that low. The best I can do is $25.
Right, this is called a counteroffer. The seller is saying, I can't accept 20, but I can meet you somewhere in the middle. And this is totally normal. It's part of the dance of negotiating.
I love that you called it a dance, Sarah, because that's exactly what it is. It's a back and forth conversation. So if the seller says the best I can do is $25, you have a few options. You can accept it, you can make another offer, or you can use what I call the walking away technique.
Ooh, the walking away technique. Tell us more about that, Tom. It sounds interesting.
Well, it's simple but effective. If you feel the price is still too high, you can say something like, okay, thank you anyway, and start to walk away. Often, when the seller sees you're about to leave, they might call you back and offer a better price.
That's true. But here's a warning for our listeners. Only do this if you're genuinely willing to walk away. Don't play games or be dishonest. If the seller lets you walk away, it means they really can't go lower, and that's okay.
Excellent point, Sarah. Honesty is important. Negotiating isn't about tricking anyone. It's about finding a price that works for both people. Now let's talk about some other useful phrases. What if you want to buy multiple items?
Buying multiple items is a great strategy because you can often get a better deal. You can say something like, if I buy both of these, would you give me a discount? Or, what would you charge for all 3 items?
Exactly. Sellers are usually more willing to negotiate. When you're buying more than one thing, you're giving them more business, so they're more likely to give you a better price. Another phrase you can use is, can we make a deal if I buy several things?
That's perfect. And here's another tip. Sometimes you might find a small problem with the item. Maybe there's a tiny scratch on a table or a button is missing from a jacket. You can use this to negotiate. You might say, I really like this, but I noticed there's a small scratch here. Could you lower the price a bit?
That's a smart approach. You're not complaining, you're just pointing out a fact and asking if it affects the price. Most sellers will appreciate your honesty and might be willing to reduce the price.
Right. But again, be polite and respectful. Don't exaggerate the problem or be rude. Just state what you see and ask nicely. Now, let's talk about what happens when you reach an agreement. Tom, what should we say when we accept a price?
Good question. When you and the seller agree on a price, you want to confirm it clearly. You can say, okay, I'll take it for $20, or simply deal. I'll buy it. This confirms that you're both happy with the price.
And don't forget to smile and be friendly throughout the whole process. Even if you don't reach an agreement, you can always say thank you for your time or thanks anyway. Have a great day. This leaves a good impression and shows respect.
Absolutely. Being friendly is just as important as knowing the right phrases. Now I think we should do a role play so our listeners can hear how a real negotiation sounds. Sarah, would you like to be the seller or the buyer?
I'll be the buyer. You can be the seller. Let's imagine I'm at your garage sale and I see a bicycle that I like.
Perfect. Okay, so you come up to my garage sale table. Go ahead, start the conversation.
Hi there, this is a nice bicycle. How much are you asking for it?
Hi. Thank you. I'm asking $80 for it. It's in really good condition. I just serviced it last month.
It does look nice, but I was hoping to spend a bit less. Would you take $60?
60 is pretty low. I paid a lot for this bike. The best I can do is $75.
I understand. How about $70? That's my final offer.
You know what? $70 sounds fair. You've got yourself a deal.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
No problem. Enjoy the bike. Have a great day.
You too. Thanks again.
And that's how a negotiation works. Notice how we were both polite. We each made our offers, and we found a middle ground that made both of us happy.
Exactly. I started at $60, you wanted $80, and we met at $70. That's a successful negotiation. Both people feel good about the deal.
Right. Now let's talk about some phrases that can help you when the negotiation gets a bit more challenging. Sometimes a seller might be very firm on their price. They might say, "Sorry, but the price is firm," or "I can't go any lower."
Yes. And when you hear that, you need to decide, do you still want to buy it at their price, or do you walk away? If the price is still reasonable and you really want the item, you might say, "Okay, I understand. I'll take it at your price."
Exactly. There's no shame in accepting the seller's price if it's fair and you really want the item. Not every negotiation has to end with a lower price. Sometimes the original price is already good.
That's true. And here's another useful phrase. If you're not sure about buying immediately, you can say, "Can I think about it?" Or, "Let me look around and I might come back." This gives you time to consider.
Good one. Just remember, if you say you'll come back, the seller might sell the item to someone else while you're gone. So if you really want it, it might be better to make a decision right away.
Absolutely. Now, let's talk about cultural differences because this is important. In some countries, negotiating is very common for almost everything. In other countries, like in many Western countries, we usually don't negotiate at regular stores with fixed prices.
That's a great point, Sarah. For example, if you go to a department store or a supermarket, the prices are fixed. You can't negotiate there. But at flea markets, garage sales, farmers markets, and when buying used items from individuals, negotiating is totally normal and expected.
Right. So, our listeners should learn to read the situation. If you see price tags in a formal store, those prices are usually not negotiable. But if you're at an informal market or buying from someone's home, feel free to ask if there's any flexibility on the price.
Exactly. And here's a phrase that works perfectly in those situations. You can ask, "Is this price negotiable?" Or, "Is there any room for negotiation?" This politely asks if the seller is willing to discuss the price.
I love those phrases because they're so respectful. You're not assuming you can negotiate. You're asking first. And if the seller says, "No, the price is fixed," you can just say, "Okay, no problem. Thank you," and move on.
Exactly. Now let's talk about some common mistakes that English learners make when negotiating. Sarah, what's the biggest mistake you've seen?
Oh, that's easy. The biggest mistake is being too aggressive or rude. Some learners think they need to be tough or pushy to get a good deal, but that's not true. In English-speaking cultures, being polite and friendly actually gets you better results.
I completely agree. If you're rude, the seller might refuse to negotiate with you at all, even if they were planning to lower the price. Nobody wants to give a discount to someone who's being unpleasant.
Exactly. Another mistake is making an offer that's way too low. If something costs $50 and you offer $5, the seller might feel insulted. It's better to make a reasonable offer that shows you're serious.
That's good advice. A good rule of thumb is to offer about 20 to 30% less than the asking price. So if something costs $50, you might offer $35 or $40. This shows you're serious, but you also want a fair deal.
Right. And here's another mistake. Some learners give up too quickly. They ask once, the seller says no, and they just accept it. But remember, negotiating is a conversation. It's okay to make a second offer if your first one doesn't work.
Absolutely. You might say, I understand. How about we meet in the middle? This phrase is great because it suggests compromise. You're saying, let's both move a little bit and find a price that works for both of us.
I love that phrase. Let's meet in the middle. It's friendly, it's collaborative, and it shows you're willing to be flexible. Now, let's talk about body language, because this is important too, even though we're learning English phrases.
Oh, great topic. Yes, body language matters a lot in negotiating. If you're looking at an item, show genuine interest. Pick it up, examine it, ask questions about it. This shows the seller you're a serious buyer, not just browsing.
Exactly. And make eye contact when you're speaking. Smile when appropriate. These non-verbal signals show you're friendly and trustworthy. People are more likely to give you a good deal if they like you and feel comfortable with you.
Right? But don't overdo it. Don't stare at the item like it's the most amazing thing you've ever seen, because then the seller will know you really want it, and they might not lower the price as much.
That's true. There's a bit of strategy involved. You want to show interest but not desperation. It's a balance. Now, let's talk about what to do after you've successfully negotiated a price. Tom, what happens next?
Well, after you agree on a price, you need to pay. At a garage sale or flea market, it's usually cash. So make sure you bring enough small bills and coins. Don't expect everyone to accept credit cards or digital payments.
That's good advice. And here's a phrase you might need. If you only have a large bill, you can ask, do you have change for a 20? Or, can you break a $50 bill? This asks if they have smaller bills to give you back.
Perfect. And after you pay, don't forget to say thank you. And maybe even have a nice day or take care. It's nice to end the interaction on a positive note, even though the business transaction is done.
Absolutely. You never know, you might want to buy something else from the same seller in the future. Building a good relationship is always valuable. Now, I want to share a personal story about negotiating that taught me an important lesson.
Oh, I'd love to hear it. Go ahead, Sarah.
So, a few years ago, I was at a flea market and I found a beautiful antique mirror. The seller wanted $100, which I thought was too much. I offered $60 and she said no. So I started to walk away. But then she called me back and said, wait, come back. How about $80? And I said yes. I felt so proud of myself for negotiating.
That's a great story. So what was the lesson you learned?
Well, later that day, I saw a similar mirror at an antique shop, and it was selling for $150. Suddenly, I realized that $100 was actually a fair price for what I bought. The seller wasn't overcharging me at all. I had negotiated her down, but maybe I should have been happy to pay her original price.
Wow, that's such an important lesson. Just because you can negotiate doesn't always mean you should. Sometimes the original price is already fair, especially if you're buying from individuals who aren't professional sellers.
Exactly. So my advice to our listeners is this: negotiate when you feel the price is too high, but also be fair. Remember that you're often dealing with real people who might need that money. Don't try to squeeze every last dollar out of someone if they're already offering a good price.
That's beautiful, Sarah. It reminds me of a phrase we use in English. A good deal is when both people walk away happy. It's not about winning or losing. It's about finding a fair price that makes both the buyer and seller feel satisfied.
I love that phrase. Both people walk away happy. That should be the goal of every negotiation. Now, let's do one more quick role play. This time, let's practice what happens when you can't reach an agreement. Tom, you want to buy something from me, but we can't agree on a price.
Okay, sounds good. Let's say I'm looking at a camera you're selling. Hi, this camera looks interesting. How much do you want for it?
Hi. Yes, it's a great camera. I'm selling it for $120.
That's a bit more than I was hoping to spend. Would you take $80?
$80 is really too low. This camera is in excellent condition. The best I can do is $110.
I appreciate that, but honestly, my budget is around $90. That's really the most I can spend.
I understand, but I can't go that low. I know what this camera is worth. I'm sorry, but I have to stick with $110.
I completely understand. Thank you for your time and for being willing to talk about the price. I appreciate it. Have a great day.
You too. Good luck finding what you're looking for.
Thanks. Take care.
And that's how you end a negotiation politely when you can't reach an agreement. Notice how Tom was respectful, even though we didn't make a deal.
Exactly. There was no argument, no hard feelings. I simply said thank you and moved on. This is important because sometimes things just don't work out, and that's okay.
Right. And who knows? Maybe later that day, Tom finds another camera at a better price. Or maybe I realise that $120 is too much and I lower my price. The door is still open because we were both polite.
Great point. Now, before we wrap up today's episode, let's quickly review all the key phrases we've learned for negotiating prices. Sarah, what's the first phrase you would teach someone?
The first phrase is "how much is this?" or "what's the price?" This is how you start any negotiation. You need to know the asking price before you can make an offer.
Perfect. Next, when you want to make an offer, you can say, "Would you take?" followed by your price. For example, "Would you take $50?" or "Could you do $40?" These are polite ways to make an offer.
Right. And if the seller makes a counteroffer, you might hear, "The best I can do is," followed by their lowest price. For example, "The best I can do is $60.
Exactly. And if you want to suggest a compromise, you can use the phrase, "Can we meet in the middle?" Or, "How about we split the difference?" These phrases suggest finding a price halfway between your offer and theirs.
Good ones. And if you're buying multiple items, remember to ask, if I buy both of these, would you give me a discount? Or, what would you charge for all 3 items? Buying more gives you more negotiating power.
Right. And if you need time to think, you can say, "Can I think about it?" Or "Let me look around and I might come back." But remember, the item might be sold by the time you return.
Exactly. And when you finally agree on a price, confirm it by saying, "Okay, I'll take it," or "Deal, I'll buy it." This makes it clear that you're both happy with the price.
And don't forget, if you can't reach an agreement, you can always say, "Thank you for your time," or "I appreciate you talking with me," and walk away politely. No hard feelings.
Perfect summary, Tom. I think our listeners now have all the tools they need to negotiate confidently in English. But remember, the most important tool isn't a phrase or a technique. It's your attitude.
Absolutely. Be friendly, be respectful, be honest, and remember that negotiating is about finding a fair price for both people. It's not about winning or tricking anyone. When you approach negotiating with the right attitude, the words will come more naturally.
Well said, Tom. And hey, to all our listeners, don't be afraid to practice. Start with small items at flea markets or garage sales where the stakes are low. The more you practice, the more confident you'll become.
Exactly. And remember, even if you make mistakes, that's okay. Most sellers will appreciate that you're trying and they'll be patient with you. Your effort matters more than perfect English.
That's so true. Okay, we're coming to the end of today's episode. Tom, this was such a fun topic to discuss. I hope our listeners feel more confident about negotiating prices now.
Me too, Sarah. And to everyone listening, thank you so much for spending time with us today. We really appreciate you.
Yes, thank you. And before you go, please don't forget to subscribe to Your Daily Dose of English if you haven't already. Click that subscribe button so you never miss an episode.
And hit the like button if you found this episode helpful. It really helps us reach more English learners around the world.
And here's our question for you. Leave a comment below and tell us, what's the best deal you've ever gotten by negotiating? Or if you've never tried negotiating before, tell us what you're most nervous about. We'd love to hear from you.
Great question, Sarah. I can't wait to read the comments. Okay, everyone, thank you again for listening. Keep practicing your English. Keep being confident. And remember, learning English is a journey. Every conversation, every new phrase you learn brings you one step closer to fluency.
Beautifully said, Tom. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and we'll see you in the next episode of Your Daily Dose of English.
Take care, everyone. Happy learning.
Bye for now.